of the host and guest of this particular show. A phenomenal woman.
As co-founder of the Center for Teaching Entrepreneurship, my life prior to CTE was working with young people in a variety of mentoring and advocacy types of programming and prevention programs. So that is my legacy to service the young people. And then I evolved into wanting to do something with youth around their assets, not just focusing on the things that weren't going right in their lives, but helping them to assess the skills that they had, hobbies, interests, how they can impact the community through creating opportunities. And thus, an opportunity came for me to start the Center for Teaching Entrepreneurship.
An extraordinary woman.
You cannot expect someone to pay you $40 an hour or $20 an hour with a $4 education and a $2 attitude, because it just doesn't add up. That's the value of an education.
The queen of entrepreneurship.
And when the star in you bursts through and people see how important you are, you're going to find that opportunities are good and plenty. You hear all those opportunities, people would come knocking on your door, texting you, tweeting you, trying to connect with you to give you opportunities, because they will be good and plenty.
Join the new Hustle and Grow team powered by the Center for Teaching Entrepreneurship Saturday at 8 a.m. when we salute the founders of the organization, Miss Redonna Rodgers and Mr. Franklin Bucktow. Hear from individuals who knew them well. Don't forget to check out our website at ctemke.org.
Everybody get on the right ship, Center for Teaching Entrepreneurship. Do your own thing, hey, entrepreneurship. Everybody get on the right ship, Center for Teaching Entrepreneurship. Do your own thing, hey, entrepreneurship.
I'm coming very strong and bold. Let me tell you before you get told.
You got
See, I run my own thing like I won the championship ring.
period. So I say to all my misses, I'm looking fly, I rock my business.
Okay.
Now my friends be dialing, calling, while I'm having fun and balling.
Everybody get on the right ship, Center for Teaching Entrepreneurship. Do your own thing, hey, entrepreneurship. Everybody get on the right ship, Center for Teaching Entrepreneurship. Do your own thing, hey, entrepreneurship. Everybody get on the right ship, Center for Teaching Entrepreneurship. Do your own thing, hey, entrepreneurship. Everybody get on the right ship, Center for Teaching Entrepreneurship. Do your own thing, hey.
Good morning, Milwaukee, and welcome to the Hustle and Grow Show, powered by the Center for Teaching Entrepreneurship. Today's show, we are dedicating to the co-founder, Miss Redonna Rodgers. If you have any comments to make, please call 414-444-5250. Our first special guest is Mr. Victor Barnett, Executive Director of the Running Rebels. Good morning, and thank you for coming. Firstly, what do you do?
Well, I'm the founder and director of a youth program called Running Rebels Community Organization, been around 44 years. We actually started right down the street at the park on 20th and Olive, and it's a mentoring program.
Okay. I had a question about you personally, in the spirit of honoring Miss Redonna Rodgers, and in all the time that you knew her, what was your favorite thing about her, or your favorite moment you shared with her?
Well, one of the favorite things about Redonna, and she was very close to me, as I heard her voice on that commercial, it was very touching. Same way I was in here yesterday, and there was a gentleman, Keon, that's no longer with us. I think the big thing for me is the word legacy. and that is, what do you leave behind when you're no longer here? And that is so important to young people, because when we're young, we don't really understand fully everything about life. That yes, you live life, you enjoy life, you prosper in life, you take care of your family, and then one day, hopefully, you'll be able to leave a lot of things, memories to other people as well as your family. So I think the word legacy means a lot to me, because it's about the young people and connecting to them, because they are the future. And Redonna, she was very, very passionate about young people, to be able to be there for them and being able to guide them and help them head in the right direction. That was so important.
Speaking of legacy, what legacy do you want to leave behind?
Well, I'm hopeful that when I'm no longer here, that there are people that will remember the same I just said about Redonna. One thing is how much passion and how much I cared about young people in our community. I think that's my purpose in life. I'm going to do everything I can do to be helpful to young people in our community, and hopefully, my legacy will be stated that that was my passion.
Okay. So, how does what you teach in the Running Rebels, your company, connect to entrepreneurship?
Wow. That's deep, because right now we have a program called Pipeline to Promise, and that comes from the whole relationship I had with Redonna. I was not as strong into entrepreneurship until my solid relationship with her. So she actually helped guide some of the programming for Running Rebels to have what is Pipeline to Promise, which is young people that want to have and own their own business, and being able to help them head in that direction. That may be somebody that want to, do graphic designs or do their own studio and things like that. So we just find the passion of young people and help them move forward with that. And I got a lot of that from the inspiration from Miss Redonna Rodgers, who was a very special person to me.
And what inspired you to originally begin the project of Running Rebels?
Well, I originally grew up in a small town in Mississippi, and I remember walking around. I used to kick rocks a lot to pass the time away. And I used to watch the TV and watch the news and saw how terrible things was way back in the 60s. So I said, about third or fourth grade, I remember saying that I was going to help change the world. So I had inspiration from seeing the world not being right, and I wanted to make a difference and change it. So I said I was going to help change the world. Didn't know what that was. So when my family relocated up to Milwaukee, and I started losing friends, I would be cool with somebody, and next thing you know, they'll be gone. I found out they were being incarcerated. That was the trigger for me to say, I want to keep young people from being incarcerated, to be taken away from their family and friends. And here we are, 44 years later. I'm trying to keep young people on the right track as much as possible.
How did it start from a small project to a larger organization? What was the process?
I think I've been blessed. One, there's a lot of people that do this community work, and they're no longer here. I mentioned a couple of names, Janetta Robinson at CYD. I learned so much from Janetta in regards to helping young people, and she's no longer here as far as her organization. So I think being blessed to be around 44 years has been helpful. But I think good work, and this is what I'll say for all young people and older people, that if you have a passion in something that you're doing, try to do it to the best of your ability. And if you do that, good things will come, especially if it's purposeful, if it's the right thing to do, and you do it the right way with the right principle, the right ethics. I think that's what I've been able to do for the longest. One example is I received $500 from a gentleman 40-something years ago to buy uniforms for a basketball team. I brought him back six cents, I think it was. And he was like, what you bringing me this back for? And I told him I didn't spend all your money, so here's your money. So I think if you do things the right way, you go all in on those things, you'll be blessed to be able to be around like we are 44 years later.
I really love that that sentiment and that mission that you have to keep supporting Miss Redonna's legacy, while also still trying to build your own. I'm still caught on her because while I was researching her, I didn't really know much about her. But while I started to do more research on her, I automatically noticed that she was a very caring and very, very efficient woman. She really wanted to drive young people in the right direction. And I know this is gonna make you tear up, but if you had the chance to have one last conversation or to do one last thing with Miss Redonna, what do you think you'd do?
Well, what I would make sure that Redonna knows that her name, her memory, her legacy would never be forgotten, especially at Running Rebels. We do an annual scholarship in her name every year. And we've been doing that probably for the last 3, 4, 5 years. And we will continue to do that for the rest of Running Rebels because she was so special to us and she was so special to this community. So the one thing that I ask of the community and everyone is when someone is deserving and they give their all to the community, let's not forget them. And young people being able to take that mantle and continue that on and being able to remember what she did and start to do some of those same special things.
I just want to ask a question about the scholarship. Was it to a university or like to help with supplies?
It's both. We have some young people that may go to Jackson State and need help with their tuition. We may have a young brother that was out on these streets and he changed his ways and want to go to MATC and be an auto mechanic, and we'll be able to help him. Some people go to college and they don't have the money for their books, but they have money for school. So Running Rebels has been able to look at things in a holistic approach, which means whatever you need, if you're a young person that's trying, I think that's the calling for all the older people. There shouldn't be a young person out here that wants to go to school and the barrier is being able to pay for it. We as adults should be able to carve the way for you guys to be able to further your education if you want.
So how important is a good education going to university is for you?
I think it opens so many doors. It's definitely not saying that that's the only route, but that opens doors. It's almost as if you have 2 or 3 opportunities going this route, but if you get the right education and the right networking, meet the right people, you might have 10 doors open for you. Now you got so many more choices. So I tell people being able to be smart and educate yourself as much as you possibly can. Because, example, you wouldn't want a doctor operating on you that's a C- doctor because they're probably going to mess up somewhere.
Okay, so moving forward, what do you want to like accomplish with Running Rebels, like a long-term goal you have?
Well, my hopes is that Running Rebels will be a part of the success of turning Milwaukee around. I remember when I came here, Milwaukee was a beautiful place. Yes, we had gangs started way back in the 80s, but you could stay away from that. You had to choose to be a gang member. Now, young people get caught up in negativity and don't have to really even, be planning that. You can get in the car and go take a ride with your friends. The next thing you know, y'all going 80 miles an hour and you didn't mean that. So for me, I just would love for Running Rebels to be a part of turning Milwaukee around, working with other people because the word unity is so important. I often say if a person say they're doing good work in Milwaukee, ask them who they're working with, collaborating with. If they say nobody, they're not doing it the right way. And then being able to pour into as many young people as we can so that they can help continue the success that Milwaukee deserves.
How do you balance your work and like personal lives like together?
Often people make fun of me. I think it is so important. I did not do a very good job of that. I live, breathe, and gave everything to this community from the time I woke up to the time I went to sleep. That is not the way to do it. I've found out that can cause health problems and different things way down the line. So I encourage all young people to be able to have that balance, to be able to go hard for what you're doing, but enjoy life, because mental health and where you are as far as how you feel is so important, because if you're not your best self, then you can't give your all to the community or young people.
I have a question of like the different programs in the Running Rebels. My brother was in the Running Rebels, and excuse me, he's 6 years older than me, so I wasn't able to see what he was doing. So, what were the different programs?
Well, Running Rebels, I think most programs need to understand this statement. Try not to have programs that you want. Try to have programs that the young people want and need. So at our organization, we are driven by young people. The name of the organization, Running Rebels, was because enough young people wanted to be like the college basketball team, UNLV Running Rebels. So we are. So we have after school programming that deal with young people finding employment, becoming more employable. We definitely want them to have fun. So we have music programs, a lot of entertainment, being able to teach young people to be able to cook. So whatever a young person wants to be in life, I think it is so important that older people carve that out. So our programming is driven by what young people need and want. So if we don't have it right now and enough young people want to do it, we're going to find a way to make it happen.
I also have another question about the Running Rebels. Say there's someone that's an adult that didn't have the chance to to join the Running Rebels or have the resources. Are there programs for them as well?
Yeah, that's another one of the things that I often get in trouble. Our program is supposed to stop at 17. And what we did through our Pipeline to Promise, we know that Pipeline to Prison doesn't stop. You could be 30 years old and make the wrong choices, and you'll be headed to prison. And that's the same with our Pipeline to Promise. It doesn't matter what age you are. Our goal is to try to help you find what is your promise. Getting a job might be it for somebody, going to college for somebody else. But that elderly lady in the neighborhood, she just might want to give hot dogs to the young people every summer for free. And our job is to help her. Yeah.
What were some of the challenges that you faced, like while making this organization bigger, and how did you overcome them?
I think some of the challenges earlier for us was funding, because you can have a great heart. And I did that. I did Running Rebels for probably from 19, 16, 17 years. I did it. There was no funding. There was no money. I was just, running down the street here at that basketball court. We used to walk to the old WNOV radio station as a field trip. I didn't need no money. We walked down the street. But as programming grew and we wanted to take young people to Washington, D.C. and things like that, you have to have funds for that. So I think it's so important that organizations find out how to do the good work and then being able to receive funding for that. I think now the big challenge is to make sure that you stay in touch with young people. Too many times programs say this is what we do and don't understand young people may be different than 10, 20 years ago. So you have to kind of bend and flex your programming to fit. I think we've been able to do that. So I think that's one of the challenges is to always stay in touch with young people and see what they need and what they want.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Like our school had a major schedule change. Like classes were completely moved around and it was hard to get used to, but the teachers just said, get used to it, which I didn't like, and maybe they don't like it either. But I think they should take more criticism from the students to be able to have both parties happy.
Yeah. Well, it's so important that we work together because, like I said before, for me, the older and younger generation working together is the solution. That's going to be what it needs to correct things because we as older people can put everything in place. But if you young people are not feeling it, it's not going to work because one day we won't be here. It's going to be y'all show. So I think we need to find out, like the example is young people, they have some understanding that they need to gain. So you can't put a young person around a lot of candy and say, eat all you want. No, you got to work with them. But we can do that together. And I'm excited about that because I came in here and saw those orange shirts and I just had a great feeling of young people that's choosing the right things to do.
Thank you, Mr. Barnett. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to help us honor Miss Redonna Rodgers. We'll be right back with our next guest after we pay some bills.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. James Kirk. Good morning and thank you for coming.
Good
Your,
morning.
your journey through this organization is very different than the others, so please share with us your journey.
I don't know if we have enough time for that.
Maybe
Well,
summarize.
Yeah, just summarize it then.
So I would try to give you guys the short version, but I'm very passionate about it. Started with CTE. I went through one of their programming in elementary school called Teach Me Some Sense with Tai Andino. Loved the program and wanted more of it. So I started going offsite to the building down on 4th Street when we had it and went through a couple other programming with them. Got to meet Redonna Rodgers, who's an amazing lady, and really took to a lot of the values and characteristic traits that they were trying to teach us really spoke to me. Grew up in church, come from a big family, so education was just big in the household. So the information that they were passing along is truly life-changing information. Through there, I started my own business called Fresh Scents, where I was selling air freshener. At 12 years old, I thought I was a boss. I thought I was making millions of dollars, and I was just going to retire my whole family. But I loved it. I kept it going for a little while, and then I noticed that I wanted to do something different. I wanted to make a bigger impact in Milwaukee. And I would just talk to Redonna as often as I could. And every time I talked to her, she said, "What you got going on new today?" With this big smile on her face. And she would just motivate me to pursue any and everything that I wanted to do. Through that, I started my own youth or mentoring program. So at the high school that I was going to, I would tutor and mentor other kids. Once I graduated, I would go back and continue to mentor a lot of the freshmen and sophomores and kind of help them stay with the rigorous programming that they had. Then it kind of segued out of the school. I still keep in touch with a lot of the kids today, just so that they know that they have someone. But yeah, that's how I got started with CTE.
Did you think you'd do something like this or down this route when you were younger?
Not at all. For the longest, I wanted to be a judge. I wanted to call the shots. I wanted to be the big man. But it was that first interaction that just really captured me.
What was your educational experience like?
My educational experience. Yeah. So I'm the baby of 11. So when it came time for me to go to school, it wasn't a lot of money left. I have a lot of siblings that are in the medical field. So they make a lot of money, but it takes a lot of money to make it. So I had to figure out ways to generate an income to be able to pay for school. So I was working a full-time job. I didn't want to charge for the mentorship that I was doing. I wanted to do that for free. The tutoring, the mentorship. I feel like that's me giving back for what was poured into me. So I started doing scholarship research for other college kids. So I would charge them. I would ask them a list of questions. I would go to the library and I would just find all these grants and scholarships. So when you guys get to that point, there are books, there are lists online of just scholarships for everything. So things that you want to do, things that are unique to you. Religious organizations have scholarships that they give to children of their faith. If you have Indian in your blood, they give out certain scholarships. So there's something for everything. If you like eating Oreos, Oreo has a scholarship. If you like fast food chains have scholarships that they give to the community and their employees. So knowing this information, I began to do my research, and I'll be like, okay, here's scholarships that you can go apply for, and people will give me money. And again, those are just some of the skills that I learned being in the organization, is how to take some of those things that we're passionate about and find a way to make them profitable. But I started off at MATC, and then I segued over to UWM.
Okay. Can you tell us about the Black Enterprise and the board of CTE?
Yes, I can. So when I was 17 years old, um, CTE sent me to the Black Enterprise Conference. And again, another eye-opening experience, life-changing. They flew me down to Atlanta for this conference, and it was one of the first time that I seen a room full of African American people that looked like me, from all walks of life, from every aspect of business possible. And I was able to sit there and listen to how they did it and how they networked with each other to keep it going. And I think sometimes in our community, we don't see enough of it. You know, we see streets with bare grass. We see the hustle and bustle of people just trying to make it. And we don't really get to see the doctors and lawyers, the grocery store owners, the pharmacists, people that created their own pharmacies. And I was able to see that. And now I really preach that. CTE board. I remember Redonna asking me when was I going to join the board, and I'm like, "Oh, Redonna, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it." But I was always so busy. And then one day, Doug called me up and he's like, "You know, Redonna wants you on this board." And I'm like, "I know." He was like, "Just come on, you know, see if you like it, and we'll go from there." I joined the board, and they've had me running ever since. But I get to share my story. I get to make a bigger impact, talking to young people, encouraging you guys to go after your dreams, and being able to support you in any way I can.
I want to ask about your career path. So, what was the process like in terms of your career? Did you take to get to where you are today?
So that was a bumpy ride. So I'm actually in food service. I've been a district manager for multiple companies. When I started working, I was 15 years old as a dishwasher for Panera Bread, and they didn't want to hire me. And I was just tenacious. I called every day. I bugged the heck out of them until they gave me an interview. And then I bugged them until they gave me a second one. And then I went in, I'm all dressed up, and the big manager, the director, was in the building for a manager's meeting, and he looked over at the GM, and I found this out later. And he said, if that guy talks as good as he look, hire him. So that's how I got my start. And when I found out that story, and it was actually because of CTE that I was able to find that part out, but it lit a fire underneath me to know that they didn't want me at first, and I was able to keep pursuing it until until it was able to happen. And I just went after everything that I wanted. I just went crazy. So I was able to move up through the ranks there. And I started training and developing employees for them, managers. And then they started using me to fix broken systems. So I've worked for Panera Bread, I've worked for Burger King, Boston Market, Dunkin' Donuts, and I've done the same thing for all of those companies where I went in, fixed their systems, worked and developed their teams.
You think working in small places such as like fast food restaurants can help you with like larger careers such as like entrepreneurship or in the medical field?
Absolutely, because it's a lifestyle. You know, if you want to be great, you start doing it every day. You know, if you want to braid hair, you practice every day, right? You know, you keep harnessing that craft until you get better. So some kids start on their dolls, then they start in their own head, then they start on their friends, and then they're doing family. Next thing you know, you're working in a shop, then you own a shop, you own several shops. That's how you become great and master the things that you want to do. And a lot of people look down on the fast food workers, but these are skills that you can take anywhere and everywhere. Hospitality and customer service is at the heart of everything that we do.
What aspects of Redonna Rodgers will always be with you?
That's another question I don't think we have enough time for. Redonna was such a dynamic person, you know, a trailblazer with a big heart. She was so compassionate and so wise and so loving and so nurturing. There were times that I wanted to give up. And again, I would go in her office and I would be defeated. And I'm like, they don't like what I'm trying to do. They don't like me. I'm the only black guy on the team. And because I'm young, or they don't think I know what I'm doing, you know. And she's like, you're not going to give up. You're built for this. You're one of mine. And she just had a way of uplifting me that, again, I felt like I was going to walk out that door and I was going to be the president, because Redonna Rodgers had just poured into me and got me together and told me, do you know who you are? Do you know what you're built for? Don't let people stand in your way. If they won't give you what you're looking for, then you create it.
What advice would you give to someone looking to start a career in this field?
Looking to start a career in
Like so like
Say it in the mic.
for like any like the organization.
whatever you want to do, become a master at it. Learn what you need to learn and go for it. There are people that want to fund your vision, but you have to be clear on what your vision is. So know what you want to do. Don't take no for an answer. Partner up with people that are already in that field. Pick their brains. Find out what was their struggles. What walls did they run into? And that way you can prepare yourself so that you can navigate those rough waters and then continue to love what you do.
Okay, thank you so much for coming, Mr. James Kirk. We enjoyed having you, and that was a crazy journey you had, but you taught us a lot today, and thank you for coming.
No problem at all.
Okay, our next guest is Mr. James Ferguson, who is currently the general manager of Silver Mill Center. Good morning, and thank you for coming. Can you tell us how you knew Miss Redonna Rodgers?
Hi, good morning. I knew Miss Redonna Rodgers through her work at the Center for Teaching Entrepreneurship. We were both executive directors, CEOs at that time. So I ran CYD and she ran CTE.
Okay. I was gonna ask this to him, but I didn't have enough time. What's the legacy that you want to leave behind, or the legacy, the memory that you want to keep pushing forward as a honor to Miss Redonna?
Wow, that's a big question. She had such a big legacy herself, and of course, her legacy was to see that young kids growing up in inner city Milwaukee had opportunities in entrepreneurship. My legacy, like her legacy, dealt with young kids in Milwaukee and also their families. So at CYD, while we were called Career Youth Development, we were a full service organization that focused on the growth of the whole family and the wellness of the whole family. And so that's where Miss Redonna and I, where we connected, because our life's work centered around making sure that young Black children and families, got a fair shake in our city and with opportunities that were presented to them. And so I'm obviously still here, and every day I still push that same legacy, that same mission forward through my work at Silver Mill.
And has it been easy for you?
Oh, absolutely not. And what I will say to all of the young people in the room is that anything worth having is worth fighting for, is worth working for. And so what you're going to find in life is that any opportunities that comes easy to you is probably not as promising as you might think it is. The things that are going to give you the most fulfillment, that are going to give you the most, um, you know, that you're going to be most proud of, are all going to be things that you worked hard for.
Speaking of working hard for things and trying to build upon that, was there ever a moment in your life where you thought, man, can I really do this? Or like, man, like I feel like I should just drop it now and like go somewhere else. How, if you did have that moment, how did you get past that to where you are
Mm.
now?
Absolutely, absolutely, and I'll say this too: those moments don't stop happening. You will always have something in front of you that looks too big for you, or that looks like it's something that you can't accomplish, and you just have to have the inner fortitude. You know, of course, God, that encourages us when we feel discouraged and when we feel down. You always got to have those things at work and alive. I'll tell you a story. The worst day of my career happened about a month ago. It happened where there was a triple shooting at Silver Mill Shopping Center, and a young man was murdered right on our parking lot. That was my biggest fear. That was something that I never, ever, ever wanted to happen on Silver Mill. And I happened to be there when it happened. And after it happened, the moments after that and the days after that were a lot of moments of self doubt where I wondered, like, can I really do this? Do I really got what it takes? Am I really the one, right? The right leader? Those types of moments are going to come. And it's in those times where you have to embrace prayer, embrace conversations with God, talking to Him and asking Him. Sometimes you're not going to understand the things that happen or the things that you have to experience, but then that's when He'll talk back to you and tell you, like, hey, I'm growing you, I'm developing you, or even this isn't your fault. You know, there was nothing you could have did to avoid this. And then He'll turn that pain into purpose. So again, remember earlier when I talked about anything worth having is worth fighting for, and it's worth working hard for. The days after that shooting were the days that seemed the hardest, but they were also the days of the most growth. And I look back over it and I say, even a month later, like, I'm better as a professional, I'm better as a human being today than I was even 30 days ago.
After experiencing something like that, what are like some self? I know you talked about like prayer and talking to people, but what like any other like self care things that you do to make sure you're okay?
Yeah, and I highly recommend that for you guys developing healthy habits for when you sustain those life blows. I call them life blows. Everybody has them. No one is immune from them. I mean, even everybody working in here, everybody here can tell you about some episodes of life blows where it literally came about and knocked the wind out of you. And what do? So self-care is important. It's important that you take care of yourself. One of the things that I did is I just took a few days away. I took a few days away to be alone, quiet, in a quiet place. That helps calm my spirit. I love the lake, the part of the lake that's actually very beautiful, even though the whole thing is beautiful. But some parts of the lake are more beautiful than others. way past capital.
Good answer.
Uh, so and you just sit out there, at the water, and I kind of connect with the spirit there, because that's where you're going to need to draw strength from. So I travel a lot as well. So I have a trip coming up that is also a part of self-care. I travel once a quarter somewhere outside of Milwaukee, just for my own well-being.
Yeah, where do you travel to specifically?
Oh my, oh my.
boy.
The most recent place that I traveled to was Bermuda. And before that, I was in Dubai.
Ooh.
So yeah, I travel around the world.
I thought you were in Georgia or something.
Oh,
nah.
well, you know what? If some people, what you're gonna find too is, as you get older and you step into like your greatness and who you are, you'll have all kinds of options, right? Some people love traveling to the Stone Creek Mountains, or somewhere like that. Me, I typically like stuff outside the United States. I spent a lot of time in Africa, and so though once I did my first international trip, it was like I've craved it ever since then. So it's a big world. So I want y'all to know that the world is so much bigger than Georgia and Florida, Disneyland. It's so much more out there to reach for and to see. So know that there are places in the world that make the best parts of America look like not so much,
Okay.
to be quite honest.
In I was still going back to in spirit of honoring Miss Redonna. What was the first moment, or when was the first moment that you met her, and what was your original impression of her?
Yes, my first moment meeting her, she was doing a workshop at CYD's high school, which was called the School of Excellence, and she was doing a workshop called "The CEO of Me." Do you guys remember that? Do y'all still do that?
Yeah, I've heard of it too.
Yeah, she did this workshop called the CEO of Me, and it was just weird. It was so funny because what she had a whole bunch of candy bars. Do y'all still do stuff? Do they still do that?
Well, we've heard of the candy story.
Yeah, and it really drew a lot of people in. I wish they still did it, but it drew a lot of people's attention because the different candy bars have different names.
Yep.
So she, like Payday, for example, she would use the candy bar to say, like, if you work hard, payday is coming, and it was just kind of quirky, but it was pretty cool to watch. So that was my first time watching her, and the way she commanded the room with a room full of young people, youth, and she was an older woman at that time, was quite remarkable. Um, I don't know. Did any of you guys get to meet her before?
I haven't.
No. Oh, she was a older woman with dreadlocks, but when she got with young people, you would not think she was as old as she was, because her personality like immediately connected to young people, and she acted young too, and she knew all the lingo, so she was very cool. And she was like having like your granny as your best friend.
Yeah, she seems just like an amazing person. I wish I could have met her before.
Yeah,
Me
I've
too.
seen stories and like watched videos, but like seeming like meeting her is just an entirely different experience.
yeah. She had a very infectious personality. Like, you guys would have loved her, absolutely. She, like I said, it's like having your granny as your best friend. She will keep you laughing. She was a jokester, so she cracked jokes all the time. She made light of everything. So in any situation, she could just make it lighter and make it funny, and she just drew people in. She had a very magnetic personality. I have not seen any young people, and y'all know CYD School of Excellence. We had some of the toughest kids in the city. These were kids that were, you know, kicked out of traditional public schools. So our school was a behavior reassignment school. So these are kids that a lot of people didn't feel were worth it, or that they didn't, students that no one wanted to work with. And again, just how amazing she was. Her, and shout out to Janetta Robinson, because Janetta Robinson's legacy wrapped around children and families that people felt were throwaway families or throwaway children, and that's where her and Redonna Rodgers connected with. I failed to mention that when I came into CYD, there was a long-standing relationship between our founder, Janetta Robinson, and Redonna Rodgers. So the two institutions were sort of incestuous in that they did a lot of stuff together. And so, but Janetta Robinson and Redonna Rodgers, they represent that generation of women who really, really, really took the community on their shoulders. They really took responsibility for the kids growing up in the community, regardless of, you know, how rich or poor they were, you know, if they had gotten into trouble in the past or anything like that. And the success that they would have with these kids was absolutely incredible. And so when I tell you guys that you would absolutely have loved Miss Redonna Rodgers, you would. It's like having your granny as your best friend. It's true.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Ferguson, for your insight into Miss Redonna Rodgers.
Um, what is something that Redonna Rodgers has taught you that sticks with you to this day?
I will never forget. I will never forget her presentation on the CEO of Me. Um, she basically said, like, hey, you are your own company, so everybody in here are the CEOs of their own company, because you tell yourself what to do. You get yourself together every day. You tell yourself what you want to participate in, what things you want to do. It really was empowering to sometimes think that you aren't so important. But she's like, hey, every day you're a CEO that's showing up for whatever your company got to do today. And you're the boss of yourself. You're in charge of you. If you ain't in charge of nobody else on this earth, you're in charge of you. And you are worth it. You are important. That's the whole point. CEOs are important, right? Everybody knows that the CEOs are important. And so, what Miss Redonna was trying to convey to all of us who feel like nobodies is that, hey, you're important. You're worth it.
Thank you, Mr. Ferguson, for your insight into Miss Redonna Rodgers. We really appreciated having you. So, thank you so much. And in our
So I was gonna say have a great day.
Okay.
Yeah, have a great day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
and in our last final minutes, do you guys have any comments about today's show?
I remember a quote when I was researching Miss Redonna Rodgers. It was, "Your life is your business, and your business can be your life." And that really stuck with me. Just talking about these different things, like they can intertwine. Like my mom, she's like head of a company, and she's just always doing work, and she loves it though. Like it isn't a bother to her, and sometimes she has to remind herself to take breaks, but she does love doing it.
I'd say one of my final comments is, even though I never knew her personally or never met her, from what I researched about her, from what I gained from her talking with our three guests, I would have loved to have been around her, loved to have networked with her, loved to have just had a conversation with her without ever asking any questions. I feel an impact that like even though she's not here, I feel that.
I have a comment. I just really liked today's show. I learned a lot, and I like talking to every one of them, and I liked hearing all of our like questions and input. And yeah, it was very like useful information that I learned today.
For me, sometimes I'm not really sure what I want to do in life or like what profession I'll go into or do for college. But like I feel like talking to her, she'd probably be able to help me decide. Because I have a lot of avenues, but I'm just really not sure what I want to really step forward into, put both feet in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that. It's sort of with me. Like I have a few avenues that I want to go down, but I've narrowed some of them down. Like I want to go to college to try to be a news anchorman, to be on the morning news every day or evening news, whatever. But sometimes I find myself that either I feel like I'm not doing enough to go to that dream, or I feel like everything I'm doing is in vain. And like sometimes I feel like I'm not going fast enough or I'm going too slow. But I feel like if I talked with her, she would have told me that it's okay to have those doubts. It's okay to take it slow, but whatever I do, I still got to do it my way.
I think every year we talk about Miss Redonna Rodgers, I learned something new. And, everybody has their own experience, everybody has their own story, and life doesn't end when you hit one struggle. So, you have to learn how to push past that. And that concludes today's show. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. Our next show will be Saturday, October 26th. And for more information, check out our website at ctemke.org. Bye.
See y'all. Don't forget to vote.